They mocked my simple dress, laughed when I sat at the charity table. The arrogant bride called me a nobody, but when the billionaire groom stopped mid-ceremony and whispered my name, the laughter died. Nobody knew I was a hidden heiress, or that this groom was about to choose me over his perfect bride. Before we dive in, hit that subscribe button because this revenge story is absolutely wild. Turn on notifications. You won't believe how fast a wedding can fall apart when secrets come out. Drop a comment if you've ever been underestimated. Now, let me tell you about the most dramatic wedding I've ever witnessed. My name is Lainey Morrison, and I'm about to tell you a story that still feels surreal even months later. You see, most people who hear my last name immediately think of Morrison Industries, the billion-dollar empire that owns hotels, real estate, and tech companies across the country. Yes, that Morrison family. My father, Leonard Morrison, is one of those billionaires you read about in Forbes magazine. My older brother Nathan runs half the family business. And me? I'm the black sheep who walked away from it all. I left that gilded cage 6 years ago when I turned 21. I couldn't stand the fake smiles, the shallow conversations, the way people only saw dollar signs when they looked at me. Every friendship felt transactional. Every relationship felt like a business deal. So I disappeared, changed my phone number, moved to a modest apartment across town, and started working as a freelance graphic designer under a different name. My family was devastated, especially Nathan, but I needed to breathe. I needed to be just Lainey, not Lainey Morrison, heiress to a fortune. The only person who knew about my double life was Nathan. We'd meet secretly once a month at this little coffee shop nobody from our world would ever visit. He hated that I was living in a tiny apartment, working late nights to pay rent, eating ramen more often than I'd like to admit. But he respected my choice. That's the kind of brother he was. For 6 years, I lived quietly. I made real friends, people who liked me for my terrible jokes and my ability to binge-watch entire series in one sitting, not for my bank account. My best friend Maya was one of those people. She thought I was just a struggling artist trying to make it in the city. And in a way, I was. Maya and I met at a community art class, bonded over our shared love of bad reality TV, and became inseparable. She had no idea who I really was, and that's exactly why I treasured our friendship. 3 weeks ago, Maya called me with excitement in her voice. Her cousin was getting married at Sterling Heights Manor, one of the most exclusive venues in the state. She needed me there for moral support because, in her words, "My family is full of snobs who'll make me feel like garbage, and I need my best friend to keep me sane." How could I say no to that? The problem was Sterling Heights Manor. I knew that place. My family had hosted events there. The elite circles I'd escaped from frequented it. But Maya was begging, and I figured the chances of running into anyone who'd recognize me after 6 years were slim. I'd changed. No more designer everything, no more professional makeup and styled hair. I was just me. Simple, comfortable me. The day of the wedding arrived, and I chose my favorite powder blue dress. It was nothing fancy, just a soft, flowing dress I'd bought from a small boutique for $60. No jewelry except for a simple silver bracelet Maya had given me for my birthday. I pulled my hair into a loose bun and called it done. Maya picked me up, looking nervous in her rose-colored dress, and we drove to the venue together. Walking into Sterling Heights Manor felt like stepping back into a world I'd fought hard to leave. Crystal chandeliers hung from impossibly high ceilings. The gardens were decorated with thousands of white roses and golden ribbons. Ice sculptures sparkled near the champagne fountains. Women dripped in diamonds and designer gowns. Men wore custom suits that cost more than most people's monthly rent. And there I was, in my $60 dress, feeling oddly liberated by my simplicity. Maya's relatives descended on us immediately. Her Aunt Patricia took one look at me and raised a perfectly sculpted eyebrow. "Maya, dear, who's your friend?" The way she said "friend" made it sound like an insult. Maya introduced me, and I watched Patricia's eyes travel from my simple dress to my bare neck, to my comfortable flats. The judgment was instant and obvious. How quaint. Patricia said with a tight smile before floating away to greet someone more important. We were directed to our seats, and I had to suppress a laugh when I realized where they'd placed us. The very last table, tucked in the corner near the service entrance. Maya called it the charity table, where they seated the guests they were obligated to invite but didn't actually want present. Around us sat distant relatives nobody remembered, and plus ones nobody cared about. It was perfect, actually. Out of the spotlight, away from the scrutiny. But the universe had other plans. During the pre-ceremony cocktail hour, while Maya and I were sampling ridiculously tiny appetizers that probably cost $50 each, I felt eyes on me. I turned to find 3 women in matching burgundy bridesmaid dresses staring at me like I was a fascinating zoo exhibit. The one in the middle, a tall blonde with a kind of face that screamed, "I've never been told no," approached with her friends flanking her like bodyguards. "Oh, honey," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "That dress is so unique. Where did you find it? A thrift store?" Her friends giggled on cue, like well-trained puppets. Maya stepped forward, defensive. "Her dress is beautiful, Natasha. Not everyone needs to spend thousands of dollars to look good." Natasha ignored Maya completely, her eyes locked on me. "And no jewelry? Not even earrings? Are you trying to make some kind of statement? Or is this all you could afford?" More giggles from her chorus. I smiled calmly. "I prefer simplicity. It's more comfortable." "Comfortable," Natasha repeated, as if I'd said something hilarious. "Well, at least you're honest about your budget constraints." Before I could respond, the bride herself appeared. Clarissa Whitmore. I recognized her immediately from her social media presence. She had millions of followers who watched her live her perfect life online. In person, she was even more stunning than her filtered photos, wearing a wedding gown that probably cost more than a car. Everything about her screamed wealth, status, and superiority. Clarissa looked me up and down with unconcealed disdain. "Girls, be nice. Not everyone can afford designer clothes." She said it loud enough for nearby guests to hear and turn our way. "We should be kind to those less fortunate." The condescension in her voice was thick enough to cut with a knife. Then she did something that made my blood run cold. She pulled out her phone, positioned herself next to me, and took a selfie. "This will be perfect for my social media," she announced. "Before and after wealth, a visual representation." She was typing as she walked away, and within seconds I saw several guests checking their phones and glancing at me with amusement. Maya pulled out her phone and showed me. Clarissa had already posted the photo with the caption, "Even charity cases attend weddings. Wedding day, blessed life, grateful." "I'm so sorry," Maya whispered, her face red with embarrassment and anger. "We can leave. We don't have to stay for this." But something in me had shifted. I'd spent 6 years avoiding this world, but watching these people, these cruel, shallow people, reminded me why I'd left in the first place. And suddenly I didn't want to run. I wanted to see how this played out. "We're staying," I told Maya. "Let them have their fun." What none of them knew, what nobody in that venue knew except maybe the universe itself, was that this wedding was about to become the most memorable disaster of the social season. Because I'd just recognized the groom in the photos displayed around the venue. Evan Sterling. My heart had nearly stopped when I saw his face on the welcome board. Evan Sterling, my brother Nathan's best friend from college, the man who'd practically lived at our mansion during university because his own family had nothing. The man Nathan had mentored, invested in, helped build from the ground up. The last time I'd seen Evan, I was 19 years old with braces and terrible fashion sense, hiding in the library whenever he came over because I had the world's most obvious crush on him. He'd never noticed me. I was just Nathan's awkward little sister. That was 7 years ago. Evan had been ambitious but humble back then, grateful for every opportunity Nathan gave him. Now, apparently, he was a billionaire groom marrying a social media princess at Sterling Heights Manor. A lot had changed. The ceremony was about to begin, and guests filed into the garden area where white chairs were arranged in perfect rows facing a flower-covered archway. Maya and I took our seats in the very back row. naturally, and I found myself unable to look away from the altar. Would Evan even recognize me? I'd changed so much. Gone was the awkward teenager. I'd grown into myself, learned who I was outside of my family name, but still, my hands trembled slightly as I waited. The music started. The processional began. Bridesmaids floated down the aisle in their burgundy gowns, including Natasha, who threw me one more contemptuous look as she passed. Then the groom entered from the side, and there he was. Evan Sterling had transformed from the eager college student I remembered into someone who commanded attention without trying. Tall, confident, handsome in his perfectly tailored suit, but there was something in his eyes, a sadness, maybe, or resignation, that didn't match the joy of a man about to marry the love of his life. He took his position at the altar, and the wedding march began. Everyone stood as Clarissa appeared at the entrance, and I had to admit, she looked like a fairy tale princess. Her gown was a masterpiece of lace and crystals, her veil trailing behind her like a cloud. She walked down the aisle with the smile of someone who'd won life's lottery, her eyes locked on Evan with possessive satisfaction. But Evan wasn't looking at her. His eyes had found someone in the crowd, and he'd gone completely still. I watched his expression shift from polite indifference to shock to something I couldn't quite read. And then, with a jolt that shot through my entire body, I realized he was looking at me. Our eyes met across the garden, across hundreds of guests, across years of separation. I saw recognition flash across his face, followed by disbelief. His lips parted slightly, as if he was about to say something but couldn't find the words. Clarissa reached the altar, her smile faltering when she noticed Evan's distraction. She turned to see what he was staring at, her eyes scanning the crowd and landing on me with confusion and irritation. The priest began speaking. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." But Evan wasn't listening. He was still staring at me, his face pale, his breathing visible even from where I sat. The priest continued, oblivious to the groom's distraction. Clarissa tried to take Evan's hands, but he didn't respond. "Evan?" Clarissa whispered, loud enough for the first few rows to hear. "What's wrong?" He blinked, seeming to remember where he was, but instead of turning back to his bride, he stepped away from her. He walked to the very edge of the altar, his eyes never leaving mine. And then he spoke into the microphone, his voice carrying across the entire venue. Lainey Morrison?" Time stopped. 300 guests turned in their seats, trying to find whoever this Lainey Morrison was. Maya's head snapped toward me, her eyes wide with confusion. "Morrison? Your last name isn't Morrison, is it?" I couldn't speak, couldn't move. I just stood there, frozen, as every person in that garden stared at me. Clarissa's voice cut through the silence, sharp with panic. "Evan, who is Lainey Morrison? What are you talking about?" The murmuring started then. Morrison Industries, that Morrison family. Guests pulled out phones, some clearly searching the name, others whispering to their neighbors. The bride's family looked confused and angry, but Evan ignored all of it. He walked down the aisle toward me, leaving his bride standing alone at the altar. Clarissa's face went from pale to red. "Evan! What are you doing?" He reached my row and I stood automatically, my legs shaking. Up close I could see the emotion in his eyes, joy, relief, disbelief all mixed together. "It's really you," he said softly, though the microphone still caught it. "We've been searching for you for 6 years. Nathan has been going crazy trying to find you." My voice came out as barely a whisper. "Evan, I didn't know you were the groom." Behind him, Clarissa had started down the aisle, her veil streaming behind her like a battle flag. "Someone tell me what's happening! Evan, we're in the middle of our wedding!" Evan finally turned to address the crowd, his voice strong and clear. "This woman, Lainey Morrison, is the daughter of Leonard Morrison, founder of Morrison Industries. She's one of the heirs to one of the largest fortunes in this country." The gasps were audible. I saw Natasha's face drain of color. Patricia's mouth fell open. Other guests were frantically typing on their phones, no doubt pulling up information about my family. At our table, Maya just stared at me with an expression I couldn't read. Clarissa reached us, her perfectly made-up face twisted with rage. "You lied! You came to my wedding pretending to be some poor nobody!" I found my voice then, calm despite my racing heart. "I never lied, Clarissa. I never told anyone who I was. You assumed. You judged me based on my dress and decided I was beneath you. That was your choice, not mine." "This is insane!" Clarissa turned to Evan, desperation creeping into her voice. "She's trying to ruin our wedding. Some jealous girl who—" "This isn't your wedding anymore," Evan interrupted, his voice cold in a way I'd never heard before. "Because I'm not marrying you, Clarissa." The crowd erupted in shocked whispers. Clarissa stumbled backward as if she'd been slapped. "What? Evan, you can't! We have 300 guests. Our families have contracts. You can't just—" "I can, and I am." Evan pulled the ring off his finger and held it out to her. "I've been trying to find a way out of this for months. Our parents arranged this marriage for a business merger. I never loved you, Clarissa. I tried to break the engagement 3 times. Each time your father threatened to destroy my company." He turned back to the crowd, addressing everyone. "I finally agreed to go through with it this morning because I was tired of fighting. I thought maybe I could learn to live with it. But then I saw Lainey sitting in the back, in that beautiful, simple dress, being herself without pretense or performance, and I remembered what actual goodness looks like." Clarissa was crying now, her mascara running, but there was more anger than sadness in her tears. "How dare you humiliate me like this? For her, she's nothing, just some poor girl playing dress up." "She's worth 100 of you," Evan said quietly, "and she doesn't need money to prove it." That's when Evan pulled out his phone. "I've been watching you for 6 months, Clarissa. I've seen who you really are when you think nobody important is looking." He tapped his screen, and suddenly the large display screens that had been showing romantic photos of the couple switched to video footage. The first video showed Clarissa screaming at the wedding planner, calling her incompetent and stupid, reducing the woman to tears. The second showed her throwing a piece of cake in the baker's face because the sample wasn't perfect enough. The third was footage from a charity event where Clarissa laughed with friends about poor people who don't know their place. And then came the final video, from earlier today. It was Clarissa and her bridesmaids, including Natasha, gathered in the bridal suite. Clarissa was showing them the photo she'd taken with me, and their conversation was captured clearly. "Did you see that poverty case Maya brought?" Clarissa's voice rang out from the speakers. "I made sure they got the worst table, and that dress. I'm posting this everywhere. My followers will eat it up." Natasha's voice. "Should we even let her stay? She's bringing down the aesthetic." Clarissa laughing. "Let her stay. It'll make the rest of us look even better by comparison. Besides, humiliating poor people is good content." The video ended. The silence in the garden was deafening. I watched the color drain from Clarissa's face. Natasha looked like she wanted the ground to swallow her. Around us, guests were whispering, some looking disgusted, others recording everything on their phones. This was going to be all over social media within minutes. But I wasn't done. I stepped forward, my voice steady and clear. "You judged me based on a dress. Called me a charity case, a nobody, someone beneath you. You mocked me, posted about me online, tried to humiliate me in front of hundreds of people." I paused, looking directly at Clarissa. I could have arrived here in diamonds and designer gowns. I could have announced who I was the moment I walked in, but I chose not to, because I wanted to see who people really are when they think you're beneath them. I pulled out my own phone. I recorded every insult, every laugh, every cruel comment, and I have lawyers who would be very interested in your defamation and harassment. I turned to Natasha. "And your employer, that marketing firm you're so proud of, they have a strict anti-bullying policy, don't they? I wonder how they'd feel about this footage." Natasha's face went white. I'm sorry. I didn't mean—" "Yes, you did," I interrupted. "You meant every word. You just didn't think there would be consequences." Clarissa's father came rushing forward, a portly man with a red face. "This is outrageous. Evan, we have contracts, agreements. You can't just walk away." "Watch me," Evan said simply. "Sue me if you want. I have documentation proving this marriage was coerced through business threats. My lawyers will have a field day with your attempted extortion." He looked around at the crowd. "I apologize to all of you for wasting your time today, but I will not spend my life with someone who treats people like garbage. I've done many things to build my company, but marrying someone with such an ugly heart isn't one of them." Clarissa lunged forward, trying to slap me, but security, who'd been standing by uncertain what to do, finally intervened. They held her back as she screamed obscenities, her perfect bride image completely shattered. Her makeup was running, her veil torn from her struggle, her face contorted with rage. "You'll regret this!" she shrieked at both of us. "Both of you! I'll destroy you! My father will destroy you!" "Your father can try," Evan said calmly. "But somehow, I think he'll be too busy dealing with his daughter's very public meltdown. Look around, Clarissa. Everyone is recording this. By tonight, you'll be trending, and not in the way you want." He was right. Dozens of phones were out, capturing every moment. This wasn't just a canceled wedding. This was a social media disaster in real time. Maya finally stood, her face a mixture of hurt and confusion. "Lainey, is it true? You're really a Morrison? As in Morrison Industries, Morrison?" I turned to her, seeing the betrayal in her eyes, and my heart broke a little. "Yes, but Maya, I left that world 6 years ago because I wanted real friends. People who liked me for me, not for my bank account. You're my best friend because you see me. Just Lainey, the girl who cries at dog videos and can't cook to save her life. The girl who helped you move 3 times and stayed up all night when you had the flu. That's who I am. The money doesn't change that." "But you lied to me for 2 years," Maya said, her voice small. "I didn't lie. I just didn't tell you something that I didn't want to define me." I took her hand. "I'm still the same person I was this morning, the same person who's been your friend. The money doesn't change who I am, but knowing about it changes how people treat me. You've seen it yourself today. The second people found out, everything shifted." Maya was quiet for a long moment, processing. Then she squeezed my hand. "You're still buying the next round of coffee. Rich people should pay." I laughed, relief flooding through me. "Deal." Around us, the wedding had dissolved into complete chaos. Clarissa's family was having heated discussions with Evan's lawyers, who'd apparently been on standby. Guests were leaving in clusters, already on their phones, spreading the gossip. The bridesmaids had disappeared, probably trying to distance themselves from the disaster. Wedding staff stood around uncertainly, unsure if they should start cleaning up or wait for instructions. Evan touched my elbow gently. "Lainey, can we talk? Privately?" I glanced at Maya, who nodded. "I'll wait by the car. Take your time." Evan led me away from the chaos, to a quiet corner of the garden where roses climbed a white trellis. For a moment we just stood there, the sounds of the disintegrating wedding party distant behind us. "I never forgot you," Evan said finally. "Even when you were just Nathan's little sister hiding in the library. I thought you were kind, genuine, real. Everything this world isn't." He smiled sadly. "When you disappeared, Nathan and I both tried finding you. Private investigators, everything. It's like you vanished." "I needed to," I said softly. "I was drowning in that life, Evan. The expectations, the fakeness, the way everyone wanted something from me. I needed to figure out who I was without the Morrison name attached." "And did you? Figure it out?" I thought about my small apartment, my freelance work, my friendship with Maya, the quiet life I'd built. "Yes. I'm happy, Evan. Really happy. I don't have much, but what I have is real." He nodded slowly. "I envy that. I built an empire, but somewhere along the way, I lost myself. When Clarissa's father threatened my company, I actually considered marrying someone I didn't love just to protect my business. What does that say about me?" "It says you're human," I replied. We all compromise sometimes, but you didn't go through with it. That counts for something. Evan turned to face me fully, his expression serious. Lainey, I know this timing is terrible. I just walked away from my own wedding. You probably think I'm insane, and we haven't seen each other in 7 years. But can I take you to dinner? As equals, not as your brother's friend or as the guy you used to have a crush on. You knew about that? I felt my face flush. He laughed, the first genuine laugh I'd heard from him all day. Nathan told me years later, I was an idiot for not noticing. His expression softened. I'd like to get to know the woman you've become, Lainey. The real you, not the heiress version. Would you give me that chance? I looked at this man who'd just sacrificed a business merger, risked his company, and publicly humiliated himself, all because he couldn't marry someone cruel, who'd defended me when I didn't ask for it, who looked at me in my simple powder blue dress like I was wearing a ball gown. You're paying, I said with a smile. You just escaped an expensive wedding. You can afford one dinner. His answering grin was worth everything. That was 6 months ago. The aftermath was, as Evan predicted, spectacular. Clarissa's social media did indeed explode, but not in the way she wanted. The videos of her cruelty went viral. She lost sponsorships, followers, and respect. Her father's business took a hit when his extortion tactics came to light. Last I heard, she'd moved to Europe to escape the scandal. Natasha was fired from her marketing firm within a week when the footage of her bullying went public. The other bridesmaids quietly deleted their social media accounts. As for me, I'm still living in my modest apartment, still doing graphic design, but now I'm openly connected to my family again. Nathan cries every time he sees me, happy tears, but still annoying. My father respects my choice to live simply, though he insists on paying for my health insurance because that's non-negotiable, Lainey. Evan and I are dating. It's slow, genuine, and based on who we actually are, rather than who the world expects us to be. He sold half his company and started a non-profit that helps young entrepreneurs from disadvantaged backgrounds, people like who he used to be. I help run the graphic design for it. Maya is still my best friend. She runs our small design business together now, and she never lets me forget the day she found out her broke friend was actually a secret billionaire. She makes jokes about it constantly, which is exactly why our friendship works. The lesson in all of this? Never judge someone by their appearance, that nobody in the corner might be the most powerful person in the room, and more importantly, true class has nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with how you treat people when you think nobody important is watching, because someone is always watching, and sometimes that someone is about to become the most important person in your life. If this story taught you anything, let it be this: kindness costs nothing, but cruelty costs everything. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this story, subscribe for more incredible tales, and comment below. Have you ever been underestimated? How did you prove them wrong? Thanks for watching. I'm Lainey, and remember, the best revenge is becoming your best self while others are busy trying to tear you down.